Hello, this is Nagoji here, and welcome to another reaction video, and today we're reacting to Beast to exterminate the Dominus 2.0 Project X Project Hybrid. What's the video? Projects the Beast to exterminate the Dominus 2.0 Project Hybrid X the Great Kaiju Hybrid War. Yep, what a title. But basically, Project Hybrid. That's what I'm gonna call the video for the sake of the title. Watching Project Hybrid from Gazavito, one of my friends, is he requested this video, so but might as well react to it. I won't be doing the teasers because for one, I've already seen them in the page short. Plus, this one's already long, so eh. So with that said, let's react, shall we? All right, here we go.
The Great Hybrid War. One of the biggest events to ever happen on YouTube, which is pretty surprising when you think about it. All of this happened when Goji Center decided to upgrade the Indominus Rex into something much more deadlier. This is the Indominus 2.0, a literal walking extinction event whose purpose is to literally end all living things in the planet.
Yep.
Now, at the beginning, it wasn't all that special. It was just a simple video of Goji Center basically upgrading the Indominus Rex into something much more deadlier. Until Goji Guy decided to strike back with his own hybrid, Hank, created to defeat the Indominus Rex 2.0. Or there was an attempt to try to defeat the Indominus 2.0, although the moment Hank started to follow real life logic, yep, he lost. Although, despite this pretty embarrassing loss, this actually was pretty impactful, as many people went forward and created their own hybrids in order to take down the Indominus Rex 2.0. It came to a point that Goji Center decided to open up a tournament and see which hybrid would be worthy to defeat the Indominus 2.0. Now, if you're wondering, yes, I have joined the war and already submitted my hybrid to the tournament. And today, I'll be talking about the said hybrid that I created.
Cool.
Now, if you follow me somewhere else, or I've already seen the recent post that I left here in my channel, you will get an idea of what my hybrid looks like. However, do you know what are the contributors? Let's find out, shall we?
Project Hybrid.
Let's begin this with the first contributor that serves as the basis form for my hybrid. And for that, I've decided to take a look at the Pleistocene era in Australia for one of the largest lizards to ever exist, Megalania. Megalania was perhaps one of the most powerful predators to ever exist in Australia, being able to take down anything in sight while also being completely undefeatable. Now, here's the thing. When I chose Megalania as the basis form for my hybrid, I didn't choose it because I thought it would be a great contributor against the Indominus 2.0. I chose it because I wanted my hybrid to be different. Because in terms of hybrids created by people, I've seen a lot of people always creating hybrids that are mostly upgraded theropods. Now, granted, there are some hybrids that are pretty unique and original, but a lot of hybrids nowadays seem to be just an upgraded Tyrannosaurus Rex. Not that it's a bad thing, although it's not really the most unique if I'm being honest. However, upon doing some research, I found out Megalania is actually a
It's almost
perfect
iconic.
contributor for my hybrid in terms of its basis form. For once, it had sharp teeth that were designed to grip and rip flesh. Accompanying those teeth are also sharp claws that could also do some pretty bad damage on the flesh. At the same time, it also had a pretty long tail that if it ate you, yeah, your body's gonna hurt a lot. However, its biggest factor is its skin. And actually, this is something I found out recently when watching this video.
Lizard scales are formed from the uppermost layers of skin tissue with a bony component, like tiny osteoderms developing as they age.
So this means that upon maturing, my hybrid would already develop a strong armor. And since Megalania came from the same family as monitor lizards and the Komodo dragon, it's safe to say that they had that ability. Now that I finished talking about the first contributor, we gotta fix a problem, and that's the size. Because you see, even though Megalania was one of the largest lizards to ever exist, it wasn't a giant like the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I need to boost the size of my hybrid if I wanted to have a chance against the Indominus Rex 2.0.
Look at the
And
size
what
of
better way
human
to do
compared to that
so
thing.
than with the DNA of the African elephant? Literally being the largest land mammal in the world, this contributor would certainly
I will
beat the
use a
size
woolly
of my
mammoth, to be
hybrid.
honest.
I will reveal its size later, but all I can say is
Just
that
because of how big a
sizing up
woolly mammoth
Megalania
is.
isn't really that much of a bad idea.
Or
Because you see,
mastodon.
since Megalania was a reptile, it was cold-blooded. So that means that my hybrid wouldn't have to suffer heat stress from its huge size. Although the heat situation is already covered with another contributor that we'll see later on. So now that we improved the size, let's see if we can improve the bite. And for that, I've chosen the DNA of the great white shark. Literally one of the animals to have the strongest bite in the world. And considering that there's actually been cases of great white sharks actually killing sea turtles, yep, their bite is pretty powerful. Other than adding the great white shark DNA for bite force, we're also going to be replacing the Megalanian's teeth with a shark's teeth.
Whoa, that's
That way the bite will
debatable.
be even
I don't
more
know.
deadlier.
The Orca
Now
bite
then, how about we
has
give
some
more
more.
additional armor to my hybrid? And for
That's
that, I've chosen
debatable
the
with
DNA
the
of
great
penguin.
white and the
Having
orca.
scales made of keratin that are
have-
strong enough to resist the bite of a
Actually,
lion,
no, that's not
including
debatable.
this
Great white
feature
has a
in my
stronger bite.
hybrid's back, would allow it to resist against
I will
the
use
bite
an
of the
orca, to be
Indominus Rex
honest.
2.0. And since this armor is mostly composed
Most
of
because of how
scales and
they
not something
actually
heavy like a
kill
shell,
great whites.
it's safe to
So,
say that my
yeah.
hybrid won't really have any difficulties moving around with it. And another factor about the pangolin scales, aside from being hard, thick, and super tough, it's the edges. They're extremely sharp, so the chances of the Indominus Rex 2.0 actually cutting herself from trying to bite my hybrid from the pangolin scales are very likely. So remember when I said that getting hit by the tail of Megalania would be pretty bad for you? Yeah, let's make it worse by literally giving our hybrid a Faganazer weapon, courtesy of the Stegosaurus. Other than contributing size along with the elephant, the Stegosaurus DNA would allow my hybrid to obtain the sharp spikes on the end
Cool.
of its tail, giving it a deadly weapon. So basically, this means that not only the tail of my hybrid will hit hard, but it will also slash and even stab with those spikes. Speaking of slashing, how about we extend the front claws of our hybrid so that they become even more sharper, using the DNA of the RP Eagle. Having talons that are just as long as a grizzly bear's claws, this would certainly be lethal for slashing. And even though it's rare, there have been cases of RP Eagles actually killing caimans, although those were juveniles, and whether their talons were strong enough to cut through the plating armor of the caiman is unclear. Now, in regards of whether Megalania actually used its claws for attack, Komodo dragons have been recording using their claws when holding down their prey. Other than that, Komodo dragons have also been recorded using their claws against each other. Yeah, this man tried to slice his enemy's neck off, so it's safe to assume that Megalania also used its claws for combat. Now, let's give our hybrid one final weapon, and this time we're going to use the DNA of the Asian rhino. Now, I'm guessing you're probably questioning my decision here. Really, reader? The Asian rhino? I mean, look at our horn. It's extremely short. Yes, the horn of the Asian rhino is shorter compared to its other relatives. However, I believe a shorter horn is much more beneficial for the hybrid than a longer one. For once, if I were to choose any of the horns of any African rhino, or worse, the horn of that one particular prehistoric rhino, whose horn is not only long, but it's placed on its forehead instead of its snout, I don't think my hybrid would be able to lift his head from the weight of the horn. And secondly, a powerful headbutt is actually much more efficient to disorient the Indominus Rex 2.0, leaving her open to any attack. And lastly, giving a longer horn to my hybrid is actually a terrible idea, mainly for the fact that the Indominus Rex 2.0 can literally use her hands to grab. So she can literally out-grapple my hybrid, making him vulnerable to any of her attacks. So it is this reason that I chose the horn of the Asian Rhino. Gotta make sure that my hybrid doesn't get out-grappled. Okay, so I got all the contributors necessary for defense and offense capabilities. However, we need a little bit more of contributors in order to deal with the other factors of the Indominus Rex 2.0. So let's start by adding a contributor for an immune system against diseases and venom. With shrews being one of the few mammals to be venomous, and also the fact that the Indominus Rex 2.0 is literally a carrier for diseases, I've chosen the DNA of domestic pigs. These guys are particular
Domestic
for not
pigs?
only being
What?
resistant to venom, but also resistant to diseases. Although saying that they're immune is inaccurate, as they can still suffer from some diseases and even die from some venom. Though they do have a better resistance than any other animals or even us. Whatever the case, pig DNA would certainly be helpful.
I would
to my
use
hybrid
snake
in terms of
DNA if I was
resistance against
honest. I would
venom
use
and
the snake
diseases.
DNA.
Hold up, it's got a little weird from the future here, and yeah. After finishing this video and doing some little research in terms of the contributors that I chosen for my hybrid, turns out I don't think I needed the pig DNA for resistance against venom and diseases, because I actually found this out just recently. So as it turns out, Komodo dragons are not only resistant to venom, but they're also resistant to diseases. So that's a thing. And again, since Megalania was related to these creatures, it most likely had that same resistance. So yeah. I don't know if I'll make some changes after this video comes out, but let's just stick with the pig DNA for the moment and then see what I do next. So yeah, back to the video. Okay. Now the hybrid has resistance against venom and diseases. Now we need something to help it in regards of stamina. Because one thing that reptiles have in common is that they tire pretty quickly. So for this, I've chosen the DNA of one of the animals that has the greatest stamina of all, the horse. Thanks to
I will
a
use a
large
cheetah.
heart, as well as
Well,
large lungs,
I will
this
use a
allows for
cheetah.
efficient oxygen uptake and delivery to the muscles. So this system would definitely be helpful for my hybrid in regards of hunting and combat, so that it doesn't tire quickly. And aside from upgrading the stamina of the hybrid, let's see if we can also upgrade its senses. Starting with the sense of sight, we're going to use the DNA of the bald eagle. Out of every species of eagle, the bald eagle has perhaps some of the best eyesight yet, which would allow the hybrid to see 4 or 5 times farther. And speaking of other senses, let's go back to Megalania, as I forgot to mention some other factors about the animal. It's safe to assume that Megalania, like Komodo dragons, had a great sense of smell. Thanks to its forked tongue that allows it to catch the scent of hair molecules, they can smell meat from at least 2.5 miles away. However, there's been reports of Komodo dragons being able to smell meat from up to 5 miles away.
Damn.
Once again, since Megalania and the Komodo dragon were related, it's safe to assume that Megalania also had a great sense of smell. However, we're not done, as use the DNA of the bald eagle. Out of every species of
Sorry, I have
eagle,
to rewind the video.
bald eagle has perhaps some of the
It's
best
a sound
eyesight
development,
yet, which would allow the hybrid to see 4 or 5 times farther. And speaking of other senses, let's go back to Megalania, as I forgot to mention some other factors about the animal. It's safe to assume that Megalania, like Komodo dragons, had a great sense of smell. Thanks to its forked tongue that allows it to catch the scent of hair molecules, they can smell meat from at least 2.5 miles away. However, there's been reports of Komodo dragons being able to smell meat from up to 5 miles away. And once again, since Megalania and the Komodo dragon were related, it's safe to assume that Megalania also had a great sense of smell. However, we're not done, as Megalania has another unexpected sensory power. Just like crocodiles, Megalania has sensory pits on its upper jaw, which allows it to sense vibration from any other animal. These sensory attributes would be extremely useful against the Indominus Rex 2.0, especially when she decides to camouflage thanks to our cuttlefish DNA. Alright, that's enough sensory attributes. Now let's focus on intelligence, which,
is definitely important, considering that aside from the fact that the Indominus Rex 2.0 is intelligent, but because we're using a reptile for this combat, we definitely need to upgrade his intelligence, as reptiles don't really have the best intelligence out there. I mean, I guess that depends on which reptile we're talking about. But anyways, for intelligence, I've decided to use the DNA of the chimpanzee. Do I need to say more? Chimpanzees are one of the most intelligent animals in the world. Along with problem-solving capabilities, this would allow my hybrid
Oh
to be
no.
extremely smart.
A
Thanks to the DNA,
chimpanzee.
the hybrid will be able to strategize while battling the Indominus Rex 2.0. Alright, now, one more thing to take care of.
A chimpanzee, oh god.
Now I know what you're thinking. Wouldn't the hybrid be resistant to heat since it's a
I
reptile?
feel like you just
Well,
put
that
the
is the
chimpanzee
case.
just to show me. I
Unfortunately,
feel like you
reptiles
just
don't
put that
have
in there just to show
unlimited
me.
heat resistance. It can still suffer
I
from
feel like
hot
you just put the chimpanzee
and
in tow
considering how
just to show
big,
me.
the hybrid is, it's possible it can most likely still suffer from heat stress. So for that, I've picked the DNA of one of the animals that have the best resistance to heat. Camels. Camels have excellent heat resistance, and they do it by storing their fat for better thermoregulation. This would make sure that the hybrid doesn't overheat, and just like the stamina for the horse, it will make sure that the hybrid doesn't also get tired. Now, here's a problem. Camels store their fat in their humps, and my hybrid doesn't have a hump. However, lizards can still store their fat, and they store them in their visceral fat body, abdominal fat pad, subcutaneous tissue, and the tail. So by doing this, this would allow the hybrid to release heat from its body in hot weather. And that's pretty much what the DNA of the camel contributes to a hybrid. Alright, we're practically at the end, so let's reveal this hybrid once and for all. Ladies and gentlemen, meet
Hank. Or
Thoracismenos Dracos, which means armor dragon. But you can just call him Basilisk. Having a weight
Basilisk.
of 5 tons, a height of 3.5 meters, and a length of 9 meters, Basilisk is an unstoppable reptilian beast. His skin is tough, and accompanying it are thick scales that are composed of keratin, hence the armor part of his name. His bite force is devastating, along with razor-sharp teeth. His claws are long and sharp.
I'm surprised
At
they didn't
the
give it
end
a
of his
bite
tail
force of
is
its
a fang and has
That's...
a weapon for
I don't
flaying
know, that would have
impact.
probably been...
And for even better impact,
I don't know, that would have been
he has
cool.
a horn on his snout. He has a great resistance against venom and diseases, great stamina, great resistance against extreme heat, and on top of that, intelligence. And let's not forget great senses, mostly eyesight and smell.
Or
Needless
heck,
to
give it a
say,
bite
I'm
force
proud
of
of my
a
boy
fucking
Basilisk.
Megalodon. Those
So
have the
3
greatest
things
bite
in regards to the
forces in the
hybrid.
world.
So firstly, there's one more capability that I was considering giving it to Basilisk, but I'm not sure if he's capable of doing it. And basically, that capability is, would he be able to stand on his 2 back legs? Some species of modern lizards, one in particular being the Australian goanna, is capable of standing on its 2 back legs. And they managed to do this thanks to its leg muscles and tail for support. Now, I was considering having Basilisk also being able to stand on its 2 back legs, but then I thought about it and then basically just asked the question, would he actually be able to do it? Because, well, the goanna is capable of doing that, mainly because it's a small lizard, so it would have no problem doing so. But surprisingly, the Komodo dragon, despite its size, is also been reported standing on its 2 back legs, although probably for short periods of time. Perhaps Basilisk is also capable of doing that too, but given his size, I am not so sure if he can do it. Although, considering that if Megalania fought its rivals like the Komodo dragons, maybe Basilisk, despite the size he has, could still be able to stand on its 2 back legs. Now, the second and third thing are mostly connected because it's actually in regards of contributors, and one of them had to be removed due of the nature of the tournament. So the contributor that had to be removed was the Nile crocodile, as it applied amphibiousness to the hybrid, so it would allow Basilisk to not only be comfortable on land, but also comfortable in the water. And thanks to its breathing system, this would allow Basilisk to breathe underwater for some period of time, although not too long, of course. You may also notice that in the design of Basilisk, aside from the Stegosaurus spikes, Basilisk also has some smaller spikes on the end of his tail. This is an attribute that was taken from the crocodile, which would allow Basilisk to have a better way of swimming, basically. So in one of the rules presented by Gochi Center for the Great Herbivore, it states that while the hybrid can be adapted to other terrains such as water, the hybrid must primarily be terrestrial because, well, the Indominus Rex 2.0 is a terrestrial creature, so yeah. So for the sake of this battle, the Nile Crocodile DNA had to be removed because, well, what's the point? It's mostly there for amphibiousness. Now, outside of the tournament, does this mean that Basilisk still has the Nile Crocodile DNA? Yes. Canonically, Basilisk has the Nile Crocodile DNA for amphibiousness. Now, for the other contributor, this one had to be included into Basilisk mainly because of another rule that Goji Center basically stated. So this rule is in regards of adding a contributor that would allow the hybrid to mature quickly. And for this case, I've chosen the DNA of the African turquoise killifish. I hope that's how you pronounce that because I don't know how you do it. These fish in particular, mainly for their growth rate. Wanna know how long does it take for this type of fish to become an adult? 14 days. Yep, you heard it. The turquoise killifish takes 14 days to mature quickly. So this means that in just 14 days, Basilisk would immediately reach his fully grown size. Yeah, just gonna say it, don't keep this guy in your house. He definitely won't make a good pet. And yeah, that was Basilisk, my precious baby boy that I'm so proud of creating. Honestly, I didn't think I would manage to create something like this, especially considering the type of research that I have to go through when creating him, which, by the way, I'm not an expert when it comes to this. There's probably some stuff that I may know about animals, but there are probably some other stuff that I'm not aware of. And especially when it comes to creating an hybrid that is supposed to be functional, yeah, that's don't think that's my strong suit. But either way, I still went ahead and created Basilisk. And again, once again, I'm pretty proud by how this turned out. I of course do want to clarify that Basilisk isn't a perfect hybrid, and it's most likely that some of the contributors that I chose may not be perfect for it, and it may also lead to his downfall. Though again, like I said, I'm not an expert, so if you guys have more experience in terms of like animal biology and all of that, then go ahead, give me some I guess corrections about some of the stuff that I chosen for the guy. Now, how do I see Basilisk win against the Indominus 2.0? Honestly, he only has one tactic to go through, and that's blood loss. Basically, Basilisk would need to bite the Indominus in a particular body part, mainly the arms and the legs, and upon biting her there, he could draw blood. And his tactic would be to literally tire and exhaust the Indominus 2.0 through avoiding your attacks while she loses a lot of her blood. Although at the same time, it probably would take a lot of time, so Basilisk would definitely need to be on the defensive and offensive side to win this. So if you're wondering where Basilisk is in terms of the ranking, well, fortunately he managed to avoid the Hall of Shame ranking, but curiously enough, he did not make it into the Honorable Mentions ranking. So that would mean two things. One, he's either on the top 16, which if that's the case, that would be extremely awesome. Or two, he did not make it as he was probably most likely ignored. If that's the case, then not gonna lie, that'll be pretty disappointing. Especially since Basilisk, this guy took like a lot of research, a lot of difficulties, like a lot of time to create, which if that's the case that, oh, I finally got around finishing and creating the guy, but then after sending him to the tournament, he just gets ignored. Yeah, that just sucks. That's just a huge bummer. But just like my good friend Godzilla Q once told me, if it wasn't for this tournament, I wouldn't have created Basilisk. And you know what? I agree. This trend has really got me inspired creatively, and I was able to create something interesting for me. So yeah. At the same time, I already got a lot of ideas planned out for him, such as giving him his own series, which, if you're interested about it, then I'll recommend checking out my Wattpad account, as this is where I'll be posting the said project. And at the same time, expect to see Basilisk in other books outside of his canon story. And if you're wondering what this project will be about, I'll probably talk about it another time. So yeah. In regards of videos, there's 2 or 3 videos I feel like would be interesting to do it in. The first one is saying how well will he survive in the land of Australia. The other is saying is how well he could do against the dinosaurs from the Jurassic franchise. And the other one, depending if that even happens or not, is seeing how well he can do against other people's hybrids. So yeah. And if you're wondering, nope, Basilisk isn't going to be the only hybrid around, as I've already gotten ideas for 3 different hybrids. And one of them has already been teased, and all I can say is that this second hybrid that I'll be talking about another time, honestly, the best way to describe it is with this quote.
Well, that's no ordinary rabbit. That's the most foul, cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you ever set eyes on.
The rabbit hybrid already has its contributors, though I probably need to do some double check to see if the contributors are right for it, and also design the hybrid. But for the other 2, well, the Condor one, I think I'll be able to get some. But the Orca one, I'll admit I have no idea what to choose, so I'll probably have to deepen my research. Oh, and speaking of Orca, no, I am not going to join in the other hybrid war that was caused by Goji Guy and his hybrid Vex. Mainly because, well, creating Basilisk was already a pain, so if I have to make another one just to fight another hybrid, yeah, no thanks. And also because, what's the point of fighting Vex? There is no point of fighting her. You wanna know why? Because Goji Guy, being the bias that he is, made her invincible for no reason. In Goji Guy's lastest video, when talking about the backstory of Vex, he literally gave her main character syndrome, and the worst kind. He gave her overpowered main character syndrome by literally having her be unkillable to every single animal attribute. From venom, heal electricity, and even the Hagfish slime. It feels like Goji Guy really took a deep look at the contributors of the other hybrids and was like, you know what? I'm not gonna let these hybrids, the ones that were specifically created to kill Vex, win. I'm gonna make my hybrid ridiculously unkillable because I am too biased to even accept the fact that my creation can be killable. Fuck no, that's next level bias right there. And the fact that in the same origin story for Vex, he literally says, "Oh, other organizations have created."
Wow, it's like
hybrids to
he
fight
take
her,
inspiration
and
from
she managed to
Mytron.
beat them all, no
He's
problem.
like,
yeah, no, that just
Oh,
shows
God.
how pathetically biased he is. If there's one thing I hate, other than overpowered characters, especially when they're in the main role, is when you come up with some random crap that were never established in the get-go just to have an excuse for your character to win. Congratulations, Goji Guy. You just made your hybrid.
So I
Vex
guess he
less
doesn't like
efficient.
my Battle
Great
Royale.
job. And the fact that it had to be in its origin story is quite ironically sad. At this point, just throw a freaking kaiju at her and then you'll win. But yeah, I'm not participating in this other tournament because what's the point? There's literally no rooms for winners. I mean, the fact that Goji Center even has a top 16 rank for 16 hybrids that can win against the Indominus 2.0, that just shows how stupidly biased Goji Guy is for his creation, as it seems like he refuses to have anything win against her because he's that biased.
Uh-oh.
Okay, that's the end of that. Sorry about the rant and how angry I was when it came to that. It's just that there's some things that really annoys me, and really that type of stuff is just unacceptable for me. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna end the video here, and then that's it. Oh, before I end this, I want to give a big shout out to GoDirex28 for helping me out with the size of Basilisk because, yeah, one of the things I actually struggled was basically coming up with the size of Basilisk. So, yeah, thanks for the help, GoDirex. And on that note, that's the end of the video. So, yeah, I'm the Godzilla Reader, and I'll see you guys another time. Bye bye!
Oh, that was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah. But with that's what I think of it. I enjoyed the hybrid. I'm not really, I don't know. I'm just basically just sitting in the corner watching the madness unfold with this hybrid war. It's me drinking my cup of coffee in a lonely diner by myself, not really paying attention to this hybrid war. I really don't watch the hybrid war. So, whoopie doodoo. I haven't watched like any of Koji Sen's videos on the hybrid or yeah, or Goji guys videos on the hybrid war. So, meh. This is probably like the only video I've seen on the freaking hybrid war. On the hybrid war, I'm just sitting. I'm just drinking my cup of coffee, watching the madness on, just seeing people have fun with their hybrids while I'm just uh not having fun. Yeah, I would make my own hybrid, but mine will probably just be like a normal size T-Rex or snake. Oh heck, a shrug. Oh heck, a shrug the snake. Legit, one of my ideas for like a hybrid would probably be like a megalodon type, a titan megalodon, which will be like have the bite, will have a head of a megalodon and the body of a titan boa. Which, if you didn't know, titan boas can constrict, and they'll and those snakes can go up to like 50 feet long. And not only will have the DNA of a megalodon, it will also have the length of a megalodon. So imagine like a 60 foot, time boa with a bite force of the head of a megalodon. Yeah. So we'll just have like the, yeah, that'll probably be my idea for like a hybrid, a megalodon slash time boa hybrid. Either that or I'd probably do like but if I, yeah, that. Eh. Meh. Anyway. But then again, he just said something about no amphibiousness. I don't know why you didn't put that. Why you put that? Why you put amphibiousness in? Is he just afraid that the Indominus won't be able to swim? Yeah. Anyway, with that said, is that going to sign off? And remember, stay big. Hybrid War fans, I guess. Kaiju Hybrid War fans. Acno and Godzilla Vita fans, I guess. I don't know. Stay big. See you in the next one. Bye bye.